So I finished my cup. I am excited, ready to give it to whoever I've made it for, but it's not done on the top. So today we're going to talk about finishing the rim, cleaning the rim off, making sure that it's nice and smooth, clear of any epoxy or any paints or dyes that you have used throughout. So for this process, I will use a cutting board. I will use an X-Acto knife. I'll use a sanding block. Use whatever sanding paper you have. This I think is probably about a 120 grit. I have a Q-tip, paper towel, and acetone. So to begin, what I like to do first is actually break the attachment of the epoxy from where you want it on the cup to where you don't want it on the cup. So I'm going to use my X-Acto knife. Now you'll notice that with the cutting board, I'm going to cut this just like I was cutting vegetables or bread or something like that. I'm going to kind of do a little bit of a saw motion, and I'm going to cut down. And that way, if my blade slips, it's slipping and it's hitting the cutting board. It's not going into my leg or my fingers or my thumbs. You'll also notice that my hand is really nice and out of the way. Now, you can do that just like that with just that sawing motion. If you're having a hard time with it, you can actually use a little bit of heat from your heat gun to warm up the blade. Just be very careful. Just use that back and forth motion. Just little movements. All right, once you've gone all the way back around, if you find that you have any little pieces of epoxy like that are still stuck to it, you can either try and use your fingernail and just go under it, or you can use the blade. So if you use the razor blade, just really gentle because you don't want to scratch the cup. And you just kind of wiggle it under and just kind of flick it up. There we go. Now, I like to make sure that this edge is really nice and soft. So I'm actually gonna sand it a little bit like this, and then I do it at a slight angle, just around, to give a really nice soft edge. Be very careful, because if you sand too far down, you're gonna have to put another coat of epoxy on. Just a nice, smooth motion. Go back and forth the other way. And just keep feeling it. You want to make sure that there's no hard edge. There you go. See, it's still nice and shiny on the top, but it's also nice and smooth. Now, I still have some paint on the inside, so this is where the paper towel, acetone, and the Q-tip come in. When working with acetone, you don't want to use your nitrile gloves. The acetone will actually eat through it, so you want a nice thick rubber glove. And I'm going to just put a little bit on my paper towel here. And be very careful not to get it on the outside of the cup. I'm just going to wipe it around the inside. You can see lots of paint coming off there. Really good idea to do this outside and or with your mask on. Acetone does evaporate really quickly, so you may need to add a little bit more if the paper towel ends up dry. All right, so I have most of it off of the inside, but there's some just on this top ledge that I need to get at, but I don't really want to get at it with my paper towel where I might rub over the edge, which will make your epoxy not as shiny anymore. So I like to use a Q-tip. So I'll dip it in there. Again, cover the acetone so it doesn't evaporate on you. And I just rub it along the edge. You may find that there's still more epoxy on there that you just want to scrape off as well. I also actually like to clean my rim the coat before my planned last coat. Just makes for tidying up the rim on the very last coat a lot easier and gives you an even smoother edge on your rim. Just using my nail, sometimes that's easier. All right, there you go. It is all nice and clean, so you'll give this a nice wash, a nice soapy water wash. You may find that there's a tiny spot that you've missed and you can go back and then just wash it again and you are done.